Welcome to the Financial Goddess channel. In today's video, we are going to continue to focus on startups, and we're going to focus on the question whether you're running a business or is it just a hobby. I have prepared a little checklist for you to help you determine whether you're running a business or a hobby and what you can do to move into the direction of running a profitable business. So the first item on my checklist is skills. If you have skills that you're continuing to work on improving, that are viable skills that are highly desirable on the market, then that's one tick for you to say that you're running a business as opposed to a hobby. The second thing to look at is profits. The first part of it is your intention. Are you doing this because you simply love doing it, hence it's a hobby, but you're not expecting to make any money out of it, which would lead me to say that you have other sources of income that you're relying on? Or is your intention to actually generate a profit out of that venture? The third thing is to look at your client base. Are you just selling to your family and friends? Or are you putting marketing and advertising out there to promote to the general public the products and services that you're selling? The next item on my checklist is the continued process of improvement, which I did touch on it on the skills side of things, but we are now talking about the continued process of improvement in terms of processes and systems that you have in place in your venture. If you're running a business as a hobby, then you're less likely to put processes in place that would improve efficiencies and profitability. You'll simply do what you do because you love doing it. On the other hand, if you want to turn your venture into a profitable enterprise, then you will be continuously looking at the ways of how you can improve on the product or service offering for your clients. The next item on my checklist is accountability, and that is a really big one for me. Accountability is so important, especially when you're running a business. If it's just a hobby, not so. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about consistency. I'm talking about making sure that you're holding yourself accountable to yourself and to the general public for the work that you're producing out there. As an example, if you're running a hobby and you're offering somebody to babysit children, you might be inclined to be less accountable to keeping your word or to keeping your promise because it's just a hobby, it's just something you do on the side. Something better comes up, you might text the person and say, I'm sorry, I can't make it. On the other hand, if you're in the business of offering babysitting services, then you will treat your clients seriously and you'll make sure that you'll be accountable for the schedule that you have made. The next part of accountability is for yourself, and that goes through time management. Are you holding yourself accountable for how you manage your day? If you're running a venture as a hobby, you're more likely to be lax with your time, more disorganized, and do things just ad hoc when you feel like it, when you get inspired, or when there's nothing better to do. On the other hand, if you're running a business, then you'll have a daily to-do list. You'll have goals and objectives that you want to accomplish for your business. And at the end of the day, you hold yourself accountable to ensuring that you do what you need to do for your business to continue to grow and prosper. Accountability is also very important when it comes to the financial management of things. So if you're running a business as a hobby, you might be treating all the cash as it's your own because it is. On the other hand, if you're running a business as a business, then there's responsibilities that you have. There is the legal compliance, there is the taxes that you have to pay. You might have employees and overheads, you might have ongoing supplier relationships, and you know that you need to be accountable financially, you need to be responsible, and you need to cover those expenses before there is a cut for you to take home. Accountability also goes to the promises that you make to your client. So that's one of the things will be to make sure that when you quote a price, that you charge the customer the price that you have quoted, which as an operating business, you will have systems, policies and procedures in place. Or if you don't as a startup, then you'll be learning on the best practices out there, and you'll start quite quickly implementing in your business systems, policies, and procedures to make sure that those boundaries are clearly defined, that you have happy clients, and that you have business that has a potential of turning a profit if it's not turning a profit already. Another thing that clearly defines the difference between operating a business for profit and running a hobby is the goal setting and reviewing, which I sort of touched on it previously. If you're in a business for profit, you have goals for your business, both financial goals, but also a vision of where you want your business to head to, short term, medium term, and long term. And as a serious business owner, you'll be reviewing your goals on a regular basis. If something is not working, if you're not getting the results that you desire, you will readjust your course of action, you will try something new, and you'll seek an expert's advice. On the other hand, if you're doing something as a hobby, you are unlikely to have any goals or objectives to review, because your main objective is just to have fun. You're doing something because you just enjoy doing it. There is no other end result. There is nothing else that you're trying to achieve. So when you are a new startup business, or perhaps you've been doing it for a few years and you're not really seeing yourself heading in the direction that you had a vision for, I would encourage you to go through this checklist and determine what is it that you have been doing for the last however many months or years that you've set out on this journey, and just have a look and determine whether you have actually been operating your venture as a business with an intent of making a profit, or whether you've been treating it more as a hobby. If you have been treating it more as a hobby, for example, and that's not your intention, if your intention is to turn it into a profitable venture, then I would encourage you to sit through the checklist and see what you can do, what areas of that checklist you have identified that are your weaknesses, your problem areas that you now need to work on. And I would encourage you to review your business on a regular basis. If you're a startup, I would recommend that you're doing it on at least a weekly basis. Have a look at what has worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. If you are feeling overwhelmed, reach out to an expert. There's no shame in making mistakes. When you first go into a business, there's a lot of clients of mine, they go into the business because of something that they have a passion for. You might be an amazing hairdresser, you might be a great lawyer, a great doctor, you might have a passion for working in a hospitality, or doing client nails, or you might have a passion for driving buses or operating a cafe. Whatever your dream or your passion or your talents are, it doesn't automatically mean that when you become a business owner, you should know everything from all other areas of what it takes to run a business, nor are you expected to. And that's okay. A lot of successful business owners have failed at some point or another. We all learn through the journey. It's always highly recommended that you find a mentor that you want to work with, and that you're careful when you do your research, whether you're looking at YouTube video, whether you're going through Google and looking for information, you really look at the source of the information and the quality of the information, the advice that you're following, because that will make a difference to you long term. And if at any point in time you start feeling overwhelmed, like it's not going anywhere, take a step back. Maybe it's time for you to take a week off and go on holidays and just get reignited with your vision, re-spark that passion for your business. Try to analyze, why did you start the business in the first place? At the same token, if it's something that you haven't really put much thought into and you no longer have a passion for, then be brave enough to call it quits, to let go of that idea. It does not make you a failure. It just means it's a lesson learned. It wasn't meant to be. And then start thinking, do a SWOT analysis on yourself. Start looking at your strengths and at your weaknesses. Look at where there are opportunities in the market of what other business you might be able to start up. And you can watch my video on the tips that I have for starting up the business. And one of the top tips there that I would recommend is doing the research and analysis. So whatever you're thinking of doing, do your homework first and then give it a go. There's nothing wrong with giving it a go. But what is important is to be real. There's a lot of people that I see that claim to be running a business, but really when I look at it, it's not really a business, it's more like a hobby. And because they're not honest with themselves, because they're not willing to admit that they're not doing what is necessary to turn things around, or maybe they just hit a comfort zone, things won't improve for them just by hoping that they will. So the most important tip that I will give you is to make sure that if you are running a business that is not meant to be, that you don't have passion for, and that feels like a hobby, call it quits and move on. Otherwise, if you're willing to do what it takes to turn it around, then start working on my tips and just give yourself a task to work on one thing at a time, succeed on that, and move on to the next aspect, the next aspect, and the one after that, until before you know it, you'll have a very successful and profitable business.